And so I put in a proposal, I called the PUC, I went and testified, the lawyer did, other members, and they changed it. And they said, okay, we will have a contested process for the certificate of need. That was good news. Unfortunately, we just learned, and so now I'm mad all over again, that the Commerce Department, of all things, has issued a statement saying that they don't agree that it's a contested certificate of need until you identify the route and determine if it's 10 miles or not, which is not what the PUC said. And so this now puts great question into this whole process, because the PUC and the judge has already found the dates. Sean, March 6th and 7th, was it?
Yes. It was.
March 6th and 7th was going to be the public hearing on the certificate of need, and now Commerce is coming out and saying this. So I don't know what that means. I called the commissioner today, and we'll hear back. In the meantime, as a legislator, what do legislators get to do? What's the one thing we get to do? Come on, what do we get to do?
Write laws. Write
laws. So we drafted a bill, and that's just about to go in. And with the advice of counsel, who's my counsel are the best ever. He's drafted all the energy policy for like the last 15 years, so he really knows what he's doing. And he wrote the law in such a way that it obliquely refers to Hollydale without ever coming out and saying, could you turn that off? I don't like to have my tricks on camera here. Anyway, he wrote this bill so that it's clearly at Hollydale, and it's really okay because it's going to be introduced, so everyone will know. But and it says that if a distribution system will service the need, you can't use a transmission solution. So it very clearly identifies our line and says that if a distribution alternative could work, then you can't do these big poles. So we'll see what happens. You know, it is very hard to get something like that through legislatively, but the other good thing that it does is it puts pressure on the PUC to make sure that they really do the right thing.
How come they can't put it underground?
Well, and I've made a huge stink about that, and so if we lose this whole battle, that'll be our next fight, is to get it underground. And just so you know, there's precedent, because on the Hiawatha line, they had this whole thing, and the lawyer who this group hired, Paula McAfee, she was the lawyer for that group, and she won, and they did it underground.
But there is also there's just a certain amount of electromagnetism. The only way to remove yourself from electromagnetism is distance, and that's why you put a pole 130 feet up in the air, just so you'll be farther away from it. So you know that's just.
But they do have a way to do that,
yeah,
David.
Oh, is that right? You have to go pretty deep, though, right?
That's why it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Because you have to put all this cement casing
you have
around
to shield,
it to shield yourself from it. And so what they say is that the cost is astronomical. So then there's two ways to deal with the cost. One, they amortize it across their entire customer base, in which case it's negligible. Or if they say that they're just doing it for you in your area, then it's amortized in, say, the city of Plymouth. So I asked those questions. Well, what would that be for a homeowner in Plymouth? And, you know, they couldn't give me, and I said, well, give me a range. And they said, oh, it could be, you know, $12 a month. And I thought, oh my gosh, you think
for how long?
Yeah, I don't know.
70,000 divided into some number.
Yeah.
Right? Big number. How many years?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
so and they wouldn't give it to me, but so I don't have that answer. David?
There's another very simple solution, and you know, I know a guy that works at NSP who's telling me about it too. But if you go along 494, where you already have the, I think it's 550,000 volt lines, you know, the giant ones, you just put it along there. Like if you cut through our neighborhood, which by the way, you won't believe it. I mean, this line goes like right through neighborhoods, and it actually goes. In some places, I'm pretty close to it, but there are houses that are literally.
They can touch it from their deck.
They can almost, they're like 50 feet from it. I mean, it's bad. And you would not want, so anyway, but the difference in cost is like $9 million if you just go where it is today, or $11 million if you go, it's like $2 freaking million. That's all the difference.
But
that's
still,
what we're arguing about.
The problem is, So that even if we do the whole 494 thing, connecting to the substations they haven't found a big route to get to that substation, and that's where you get that problem. But that's where they could either underground just for a little bit,
Right.
or do this alternative solution. So again, we're just not going to stop fighting till it's done. Yes. Yeah. Well, you just feel like you're just, oh man, what battle next,
Can this neighborhood compete in legal fees and in lobbyists with Excel Energy? I mean, they shouldn't have to be spending all kind of money for lawyers and lobbyists.
I think they felt and they didn't do it, they just hired a lobbyist. I mean a lawyer, I'm their lobbyist.
Oh, I mean,
but and I'm free.
Can they afford to pay a lawyer?
The thing is, well, they chose, if you go to the public hearings and you hear from person after person after person about the devaluation potential of their home, and I mean that's a huge risk, as well as the potential health risk. I mean, they felt as though that was an expenditure they were willing to make as a group. And I think were I in their shoes, I would make the same conclusion.
Yeah, the point is Excel's legal budget is millions, and your budget is probably 10,000.
But they're not being, I will say, I'm very close to those folks at Excel. They've helped me on many occasions, and they actually have been giving me great advice and helping me navigate the system. They're not our enemy. They are not our enemy.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Pardon?
We're their customers.
Yeah, and they treat me like I'm their customer, and they have helped me, given me clues about how to deal with the PUC.
And they're essentially a nonprofit, right? Isn't it?
It's a utility.
Yeah.
Is.
No, it's not.
It's a profit, but they have a
but we
managed
set their
nonprofit.
rates.
We set their rates, so.
We set it, yeah.
All they do is distribute electricity.
Yeah.
We're the ones.
Right.
They're the
Exactly.
company, when you
Yeah.
back up and listen,
Yeah.
look at it.
So we always say we're going to end at 8. So who hasn't said anything that wants to, Jerry?
Oh, higher education.
Oh,
Education.
yes.
Gotta get the education.
And so while I'm here, is my wife works at Anoka Tech.
Yeah.
Anoka Tech has not been in contract for a couple of years, haven't received a raise in 4 years. The current union contracts are in a difficult stage and nothing's really happening. Is there anything you can do to help that out, or do you have any comments on the whole MINSC system?
Minskew has told me that they've settled their contract.
Not according to the last result.
Do you think that there's a couple different, I know what it is, the community colleges and the technical colleges are two different negotiations, and so that's why. So most of Minskew has settled, but yours isn't, and so I'm not involved in that conversation, but I will certainly poke around it.
That doesn't sound right to me.
I met with the Minskew faculty. I had dinner, and they told me they'd settled their contract. But then I remember somebody whispering in an ear, it's not true for the, and so is it, is this a technical?
Okay, could you look into it
Yes.
more? Because the last email that we got last week said all ready to go, and it's not happening, and it's not a friendly negotiation going on right now.
Oh, awful,
So,
awful. Okay. So the governor recommended $240 million in higher ed, and he recommended $80 million in the state grant system, $80 million for Minskew, and contingent on the report that I asked the University of Minnesota to deliver $80 million for the University of Minnesota. So, all of those kinds of numbers thrown around have to be taken into account, that it really it all depends on what happens with the overall budget. But the thing that I'm most committed to is our student aid. Our students have a burden of debt that is unimaginable. The recession really took its toll. And so I know I even put out in that newsletter once, I put out a questionnaire. Should the state have a role in helping with debt reduction? Because I was watching what the federal government was doing with the homeowner, foreclosure issue, and I thought, well, gosh, is it, so, you guys were great. You said, no, people took on their debt, they should pay their debt, was the overwhelming answer. I got that. But then one of the things that we have found that we could do to help we could perhaps buy their debt and then use bonds to lower the interest rate.